everybody out there in Medfield. Welcome to the newest edition of Happenings in Medfield. We have something new today. We have a gentleman here, Tony Centauri, who's going to be talking about a new committee that has just started a few months ago for discussing and studying senior housing and the issues involved on both sides of that. Tony and I were on another committee before, the Solid Waste Committee, now called the Transfer Station Committee. And in addition, we are both members of the Lions Club, so we've seen each other a lot. But fortunately, we still talk to each other so far. But Tony's going to tell you a little bit about the committee, what it's made of, and what we hope to do. So now on to Tony.
Thank you very much, Ann. The genesis of the committee was the last town meeting we had. There was much discussion about housing in Medfield and 40B housing, etc. And I got up and said something that I thought that there ought to be a 40S housing program to take care of housing for seniors. And as a senior myself, and Ann can testify to this, that I realized that there was an issue among seniors who lived in Medfield for many years and wanted to stay in Medfield many years. And I'll try to go through some of the issues that came to fore.
Okay.
I got put on the committee. I was made chair of the committee. Ann's on the committee.
I made the motion, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Do you want me to take the motion back?
Jerry Kasanjian is on the committee, Chris Rummel, Steve Dragatakis, Roberta Lynch is ex officio on the committee. We started in October. We've had maybe 5 meetings, and we've got off to a pretty good start. One of the things that's driving our committee is that we want to get something on the town meeting warrant. So we're trying to accelerate our program and come up with a lot of things. But I have a report that I'm going to be giving to the selectmen on the 17th, which is a status report of what's happened at the committee and what's been happening. So I'll go through this slideshow and I'll kind of give you a running commentary.
Okay, shoot.
The mission statement that I felt was that we needed to define Medfield seniors, their demographics, their income, their current home equity, their housing preferences as they age, and also their Medfield options. And I think that this is an important way to see what really are facing Medfield seniors and why they feel that they've been unheard. The next slide is a statement about the graying of our population. Probably a lot of people realize that people are living longer. The senior segment is growing around the country, and there's a quote here that came from a recent Harvard University study. By 2035, an astounding 1 out of 3 American households will be headed by somebody aged 65 and older. And I think, Ann, you'll agree that this is happening in Medfield. We've got a lot of seniors.
Absolutely.
The next slide shows the population trends by age cohort for Medfield from 1990 to 2016, and then with projections for 2020 and 2030. And when you look at this chart, you can see that the 49 and under portion of the population is going to be declining over time. The 50 and 60 to 64 age bracket is going to be increasing by, this is between 1990 and 2030. That portion, 50 to 64, is going to be increasing by 36%. And what is amazing is that the 65 plus population over that same time frame is going to be increasing by 328%. And if you look at the numbers, 65 plus population in 1990 in Medfield was 866, and they're projecting it to go to 2,800 by 2030. So there's been a big change. And in the next slide, I think you can see graphically the age 49 and under is kind of shrinking as the total population. The age 50 to 64 is taking up quite a bit of that, but then the 65 plus portion is increasing to the point when you get to like 2030, the population of seniors gets to be like 40% of the total in Medfield. So there's a definite aging of the population, more and more seniors. The other thing we looked at was the senior incomes. One of the issues that I found when I started looking for, I really wasn't looking for a house, but I got involved with a realtor, and the income that you have it will also determine whether you can get a mortgage. And unless you're well-to-do, you're going to need some help from a bank. But if you're on Social Security and if you're on a 401k plan, there isn't much income that you have. Generally, the income is like $50,000 to maybe $70,000 at the most. And if you're trying to float a loan get a loan for a large house, maybe you want $400,000, $500,000.
Yep.
The new banking laws aren't going to let you do that. One of the things we did find was that people who are 55 to 64, their incomes are like $150,000. And at first I didn't understand this, but then I realized that these are the seniors who are still working. And they may be even a two-couple family that are both working. So their incomes are pretty solid. But once you hit 65, people start to retire, 65 to 74, their income drops off to 86,000. And then from 75 to 84, it's like $53,000 for income. So you're kind of restricted on what you can do as far as mortgages. The next slide shows the assessed values of seniors' homes. And this was from town data that we got, that from age 55 to 64, the home values are around $550. 65 to 74, the home values are around $500,000. And from 75 to 84, the incomes are around $464. And why I bring this up is because seniors that go about buying a new home, the majority of their equity is tied up in their home. And if you have a home which is worth $500,000 and you're going to go to sell it, you're not going to clear $500,000. You may have to, you're going to pay real estate fees, you're going to pay all kinds of other fees, lawyer fees. You may lose $30,000 to $40,000. So
I just went through this 2 years ago.
So when you talk about selling your house for $500, you're not going to have $500 to buy a new home. You're going to have something maybe $450 plus. And when I looked at what was available in Medfield, the different housing projects that have recently been built, Medfield Village down on Route 27, Glover Place on North Street,
Prentice Place, Turtle Brook Way.
The housing that's going up at Hospital Road. These units are starting at 5 small units of 5, single car, one, $500,000 maybe. But if you remember what was happening at North Street, some of those units were at $700,000. So right off the bat, you live in Medfield, you've been here for a long time, you know what your house is worth. Unless you've got a nice little bankroll, you don't have any place to move. And I think we'll see some of this happening elsewhere.
So next slide's coming up, huh?
Next slide's coming up. What the committee did was we did a lot of research on what's happening in Medfield, got information from the town. We decided to do a survey of seniors. And we did it primarily through computer, using Google Forms. We devised a program to get responses from people. So far, now this went into effect just before Christmas, and so far we've got 80 responses. And we were looking at the age distribution of the respondents. We wanted to get confirmation of their existing home values. Wanted to find out how important it was for seniors to stay in Medfield. And then also the desirable features of the next home. What would they like to see in the new home? And more importantly, what are the price points of the next home? Because this is going to be something that's important to whether we're ever going to get housing for seniors in Medfield.
So
next slide shows Medfield seniors by age, and 55 to 64 was like 18% of the population. 65 to 74 was like 35%. 75 to 80 was like 20%. So there's a good percentage of seniors in the town. The next slide, we asked people about their latest tax assessment because we wanted to get an idea what their home values were. And this is a chart that kind of shows you. And generally, it's in the range of $400,000 to $500,000. I won't go through all the colorations of the chart, but we had people tell us what they thought their home assessment was. The previous slide that I had talked about home values, but this came from the assessors' reports in their database. The next slide was talking about household income. Again, the thing that kind of amazed me was there was a good percentage of seniors whose income was over $100,000. I didn't really think that was going to happen. It was like 23%. But the chart shows the different splits. And generally it's between $40,000 and $50,000, $60,000 tops, but that's generally where it is. The next slide was looking at what do people expect, seniors, what do they expect to have as a purchase price for the next home? And I was surprised at this because the 50% of the respondents said they were looking for a house between $300,000 and $350,000. Now you're a realtor, you worked in town. Yep. Do you think of many homes in town that are going to sell for that price?
Well, I can think of a few, but
not many.
You're right.
Not many. So this is sort of a disconnect between what seniors desire for a home and the price they're willing to pay and what's available in the market today. We all know real estate prices have gone up. A lot of people have had to leave Medfield because they couldn't afford the home, and you have to move even further west than Medfield and get down to Franklin and Bellingham where prices are cheaper.
And taxes are less.
And taxes are less.
Taxes are a big issue.
The next slide, we asked people about what their next housing preference would be, and the majority were a single-family home, and also a condominium was another top pick of seniors where they wanted to live, what kind of facility. The next slide was a series of questions we asked about what kind of features would you like in your new home. And things that popped out and were strongly preferred by seniors was a single level. You find this now in a lot of housing projects that are done for 55 plus, that they're touting a single level home. There's no stairs, there's no upstairs. 2 levels was moderately or preferred, but not as much as the single level. 2-car garage was highly favored. The town services like water and sewer were preferred. The next slide shows the preference was pretty strong for outdoor space or a green space or a patio they'd like to have in their home. Also some storage room because when they move they're going to take a lot of stuff with them. Washer and dryer in the unit, so they're not down in the cellar and you have to walk down the stairs with the laundry basket. The support was also there for handicapped accessible features. And a lot of the housing, particularly the one I know about in Norfolk, River's Edge, was built with a lot of senior features in the home. For instance, the washer and dryers on the first unit, the first level.
Yeah, there are a lot of places like that.
The doorways are wide enough to accommodate a wheelchair. Yep. The doors are, rather than a knob, they're a handle. And there's a lot of other features, and a lot of other towns are sort of adopting this as a standard for seniors.
Yeah, it's been a standard for a while.
To the point where developers coming to the town specifically and asking, okay, what are these specific, they call them universal standards for senior housing. So it's becoming common. The next slide was kind of the results of the survey we have so far. As I said, we have 80 responses. Some of them were interesting. The question about how long have you lived in Medfield, I was surprised that the people who've lived in Medfield for 31 to 40 years represented 25% of the population, and people who have lived in Medfield for over 40 years, that was 1/3 of the senior population. So that's kind of...
And I'm over 50 years.
Interesting. So people, these are seniors who've been here a long time. They're probably in the same house that they bought in the 70s or the 60s. 95% of them own their own home. And one of the things that was striking, that was 67% of the seniors said that they wanted to stay in Medfield. They love Medfield, they like the town, they don't want to move. They'd like to stay in town. The next slide was some of the findings in the survey. As I mentioned, the seniors want to stay in Medfield. They told us that their existing home value was around $400,000. Seniors 65 and older have a limited income. They all seem to favor single levels. This was very strong. And 70% of them seek a home price, the next home, between $300,000 and $450,000. So this is something that's being borne out in the survey. We hope to get the responses up over 100, but so far this is what the survey is telling us, what seniors are telling us. One of the things that the committee, I think, is going to recommend is we need to get a warrant article in the town meeting. Things in Medfield don't happen unless it happens at the town meeting and it gets voted on and there's instructions to somebody that we think something needs to be done. And if you don't get it on this year's warrant, nothing much happens. You're going to wait till next year. So the committee, I think, is going to agree with me that we need to kind of put some things on the table and be direct with the town and say, you know, we have an issue. Seniors have got a problem. They really don't have any place to go. And one of the things we're looking at is the fact that the senior center is very popular with seniors. It's been built since 2007. It's a beautiful building. It's one of the best senior centers around.
And it's
the
beautifully
seniors
staffed.
love it, and it's well run.
The staff is unbelievably good, every single one of them.
And there is some property adjacent to the senior center, which was all that industrial land that was off West Street. There is a parcel of town-owned land, which is called Lot 7, which is behind Copperwood. It's about 9 acres of land. Not all of it is buildable, but what I wanted the town to do, because they own it, was to make sure that this property is set aside for senior housing for seniors 65 plus, not 55 plus, 65 plus, and that the units be priced between $350,000 and $450,000. Now, anybody's going to ask me, well, how is that going to happen in Medfield when you know, North Street was $700,000, this is almost half. How's that going to happen? Well, the town owns the land, and we think that the town should investigate some kind of a process where they could use the town land and retain ownership of it and just hire a builder to build the houses and have the builder build houses that the town specifies. Single level units, so many car garages, so many bedrooms, et cetera, et cetera. The other place that we think there's something can be done, which is a little bit further along in time that's going to happen, is the Medfield State Hospital. Now this has been studied for, I was on the committee back in '03.
I was on one of the committees for over 30 years.
Yeah, so
We're
it's
still
been
waiting.
studied for a long time.
We're still waiting.
I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm sure it's going to be coming fast, but there's a lot of land up there that the town owns.
That would be a perfect place.
And
it
it
really
would be a perfect place. And I think that this should be a first stage of the development for senior housing, 55 plus, single level.
No, not just single,
And
because
2 level.
some people like the 2 levels.
And 2 level.
Or people like me that have kids out, some of my 6
Right.
kids live out of state. And when they come to visit with their kids, they wouldn't fit in my 1-floor house
Yeah.
with 2 bedrooms. They would like, and a lot of them, that's why some of the people that I sold houses to in different over 55 developments wanted the 2nd floor. They wanted a bedroom and bath on the 1st floor for them. But they wanted the bedrooms, 2 bedrooms upstairs for the visitors. And that was a really important item for a lot of people. It depends on your life situation.
Yeah, it does. And that's why I said that the 65 plus single level should be on Lot 7. And I think the capacity there might be for 25, 30 units at the most. So it isn't a big development. Up at the hospital, I envision it being a larger development where you will have 55 plus senior, and you can have townhouses up and down. You can have
Well, not townhouses, but capes or colonials.
well, townhouse to me means up and down.
No, townhouses are narrow. long
Well,
and narrow.
they're up
so-
and down, and they're narrow
Yeah,
because
two-floor houses.
the developer is trying to
Two-story houses, you mean?
save money.
Two-story houses.
Yeah, two-story. And there could be other kind of housing. It should be multi-use. It should be regular family housing. It should be a community up there at the hospital. So it can have family housing, it can have 55-plus
But-
housing, and then it should
We have
have
to wait
senior
for that.
housing.
We have to wait.
Yeah, but there's a lot of room up there. And we'll see what happens. So the bottom line, what's the bottom line for Medfield seniors? The last slide. One of them is you can age in place. After all my hullabaloo started, and I started looking at my house, and I kept telling my wife, you know, I like my house. We have a lot of nice things here. I don't like the stairs. I don't like the maintenance. I don't like the grass. I don't like the shoveling, or et cetera. And she said, well, you can always have that done. And I'll take your money. You can just assume that it's a condo fee.
Sure.
A lot of people have moved out of town. We all know people have moved into Norfolk, either Pin Oaks or
Well,
River's Edge.
some moved it because of taxes too, though.
Well, taxes are high,
in our
and a lot of
defense,
people
taxes are
in
very
the
high.
survey did mention in the comment section.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised if they didn't, because the property
yeah.
values are high, no question.
Yeah.
And if you bought your house 50 years ago, like I did, or more than that,
Yeah.
then you make an enormous amount of money after it. But you're also paying a heck of a lot of taxes. And some people with their limited incomes just can't afford to keep paying those taxes.
So moving out of town is an option.
It's not a good one, I hope.
Another option is to be an advocate for a Medfield solution. And that's what I'm talking about, doing something here for Medfield seniors, but it's got to be tailored for them, and it's got to be, I think, use of town-owned land and in order to get reasonably priced units. There are a lot of people that told me, look, I can't afford $700,000. There's no way in hell I'm going to do it. I'm going to age in place, or that's the way it's going to be.
And more rental units might be an option too, because I know several people that didn't want to get involved in owning a house anymore. They didn't want to
Yeah.
pay the taxes. They didn't want to worry about the paperwork. They just wanted to rent and pay their dues to the
And a lot of
landlord.
seniors I know went
That's
over
the easier
to-
way out. And,
Went over to the park. And they're very happy with the units there,
Yeah.
and
yep.
somebody, I'm sure both of us know, that they're on the first floor and they like it.
Well, I know several people over there. So.
Yeah,
And they did not want to bother with ownership anymore. So I think building some rental units, perhaps near the center, wouldn't be a bad idea either.
yeah. And I
Because
don't know
some
what's going to
people-
happen on Dale Street, the project that's
We don't know.
underway.
It's
It's
up
a consideration. But
last time
anyway,
yeah.
that's the situation. We're hoping to educate all the seniors so that they can at least participate in the survey or understand what other seniors are saying. And hopefully we can educate the rest of the population in town, because when we come to town meeting, we might propose all this stuff, but if you're a young family, you might say, well, I don't see what we need that for, et cetera, et cetera. So we've got to sort of build up a support system with the rest of the population,
Yeah.
that they understand what seniors are up to and what they're facing and what they'd like to do. And hopefully it'll come to soon. A lot of seniors, we're all getting older, and by the time these things happen, they don't happen overnight. There's a lot of zoning changes and hearings, and
There's a big hearing tonight about that.
this could take years to happen.
It
It could
could.
take 2 or 3 years before we even turn over a shovel.
But-
But anyway, we need to focus on it and make sure that it stays in the limelight, and people at town hall, et cetera, know that there's a constituency out here that has a problem and wants the town to help them find a
Yeah.
solution.
And Town Hall has a dynamite staff too. I don't know how often you're in and out of there, but
Yeah.
my 30 years as a selectman and 47 years being on different committees, I got to know everybody in Town Hall. I've been continually impressed by the staff there.
We do have an excellent staff
The
down
town
hall.
planner is a lady named Sarah Raposa, and she knows everything about buildings going on in Medfield. She is dynamite. She's very willing to help with anything. There are a lot of really good people there that will help.
So anyway, we're going to be presenting this slideshow again at the Selectmen's meeting on the 17th of January. This is sort of a status report to let them know what we've been up to the last couple of months.
I'd like to remind people too that these meetings are open to the public.
Yep.
We're currently meeting at the senior center. It could be any place, but it's always posted on the town website. Look under events, and you can look on the date, and then you'll look senior housing, and then you'll find it, and people are more than welcome to come and listen. If the chairman lets you, you can talk. If he won't let you, you just have to listen.
I let people talk. We want to hear what
I
they
think
have
he'd be
to say.
willing to let you still talk. But I think it's a good thing to come listen and ask a question if you got a good one, because that's how we all learn. It'd be good if you can.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ann.
Well, thank you for coming, Tony. Appreciate it very
My
much.
pleasure.
And I wish you luck with the project. I do.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Good job.
The preceding was a production of Medfield TV.